Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a horror film from Canada, English language, released in the year 2015, directed by Audrey Cummings, and this film is called Berkshire County. It's also known in Australia as Tormented, but Berkshire County is the original title. So the story of Berkshire County, you've got this girl, she's been bullied at school, there is something that happened at a party that she regrets, but it's all over the internet, so everyone's making fun of her, and she really doesn't know where to go with her life. But then on a Halloween evening, she is called to do some babysitting for a very rich couple that live in this massive mansion. So she gets to the mansion, she's told the rules as to when the kids have to go to bed, what they can and cannot eat, and so she gets all of this, the planning, and she goes about her evening. So she gets a knock on the door, and at the door there is this little kid in a pig mask, and he wants basically candy, and so she gives him candy, but she realises that this kid is actually unlike any other kid she's ever met, because he is accompanied by some other people who are intent on causing her harm. So she has to fight her way through the evening and protect the children, and at the same time try and get the identities of these people in order to try and basically fight back and survive the evening. So whether or not she can is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Berkshire County. Expectation levels for this film were non-existent. I saw the trailer, I really wasn't won over because I felt like this is a movie I've seen before. And so, because the trailer didn't entice me to actually go out there and see it, I really didn't want to, I basically had no interest in it. And so, I finally saw it very cheap on Blu-ray in a second-hand DVD store, so I thought, why not give it a go? And at the end of the day, it's exactly what I thought from the trailer. This is a very predictable film, it's something I have seen before, therefore it does defeat the purpose of the suspenseful moments that the film has. And so I will say, as far as a low-budget independent horror film, it's very well made. The production levels are very good, cinematography and the camera angles were very tight. Thought the acting wasn't great, but as far as a low-budget independent horror film is concerned, it wasn't terrible. It didn't really derail the experience of getting into these characters, and I thought there were some very haunting sort of moments where these assailants are going through the house and she's hiding, and you're almost, as a viewer, you're holding your breath as well. And you've also got some brutal moments of violence that is thrown in there for the mix. And so as far as production is concerned, I thought it was actually competently made. So Audrey Cummings is not a terrible director, but unfortunately where the movie really fails is in its lack of creativity. It's a very predictable film, so although you've got some suspenseful moments, you know exactly who's going to survive and what's going to happen. And so I thought, because I knew what was around the corner, it was like having a cheat sheet in an exam, is that you're testing yourself, but because you know the answers, you're not really testing yourself. And so if you've seen films such as The Strangers, or Babysitter Wanted, or When a Stranger Calls, you know exactly how this film is going to transpire. So it feels like a homage to those movies and the old-fashioned sort of home invasion slasher films, but unfortunately it's not taking enough creative liberty to make it a film that would actually warrant you to go out there and see it. And so if you've passed up the opportunity, you're not really missing anything at all, because, as I said, you've seen it before, and because you've seen it before, you can play, you can travel in time, and you already know what's going to happen at the finishing line. And so there are a few twists and turns, but once again, there is no creativity in this film whatsoever, so the twists and turns you've seen all before, and I could predict what was going to happen. I could predict whether or not someone was going to get help, or whether or not, something sinister was going on. And so that was the biggest criticism, and because that is a certain level of predictability, the movie does drag, and it goes for 80 minutes, and because it goes for 80 minutes, that is the biggest problem, that it drags. It shouldn't drag. It should be very fast-paced, breakneck speed, balls to the wall. But unfortunately, because of that lack of creativity, you do get that predictability, and because you get the predictability, you get a strong sense of monotony, and you almost want to feel like you almost want to fast forward through these scenes. And that is the biggest problem, is because these scenes are the film's biggest draw card. It's a home invasion film. The film is relying on its suspense. The film is relying on its horror and its brutality, but the brutality doesn't work as much, because although there is this sense of anticipation that if they get caught, bad things are going to happen, but you know whether or not if they are going to get caught, because, as I said, if you've seen one, you've seen this one. And so I thought to myself, the production levels weren't really complemented by a solid story. Thought the acting was non-existent. There was a little bit of a side story featuring this main character as far as bullying is concerned, and I thought that was definitely out of place, because it didn't really contribute anything to the character, didn't snowball this main character into anyone that was terribly likable. And so I thought, okay, maybe the movie's about cowardice, maybe the movie's about standing up for yourself, and finally this main character is standing up for herself, but there wasn't enough depth into that character for that sort of aspect to really work. And so I thought that was a side story, that the side element that really wasn't needed. I thought it would have been just as good if this was a woman that you didn't really know at all, and it just relied on the suspense, such as The Strangers, or even the French film Them. You don't know too much about these characters, but it's not relying on character sort of sympathy, it's relying on actually getting yourself into that certain situation and the suspense levels of the anticipation of getting caught, you know, holding your breath as the person walks by very close to you. That is what those movies depended on. And those movies were very self-aware, but I thought this movie was trying something a little bit fancy, and it didn't really work because of the fact that the story, as I said, was something that you have seen before, and you know what's around the corner. Therefore, it eliminates all the suspense that the movie really wants to create. So there were some moments that I liked, but unfortunately, as far as a whole experience is concerned, this movie really shouldn't exist. I thought, as far as creative liberty is concerned, I don't think the director really took a risk at all, and therefore it just makes it a film that's very, very disposable. If you see it very cheap, or you come across it on TV on a Friday night and you want something just to lay back and, you know, basically leave your brain at the door, then Berkshire County is one that I would say give it a go. It's not the worst film I've ever seen, but unfortunately I just thought the fact that it stays confined to similarity and familiarity, it prevents it from actually making a shadow of its own, and so therefore it is very monotonous. It's just a dull sort of home invasion slash slasher film, and as a result of that, I'm only going to give Berkshire County 1.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.